most of the small businesses in my field now, or more retired. Nti bebree na apɛ sɛ ɔmotɔn ɔmo business, but there's not a lot of there's not enough accountants. Accountants are one on one also. So I started reading about how I took business, and then when I was working at the state now, actually I started reading about it. Into me movie bar baby I'm also see now because this is where now me name wife a person settle. To me movie bar no, then I was working for the school district as a more chief financial officer and na me research now. So I found a business that was selling. Okay, see, as I was getting into that field now, I started talking to the bank, learning about how to buy the business, how much almost sell it for. It was my first time. I did quite a lot of work on the back end before going ahead and making pulling the plug. To me go through that process now, it was really interesting to me that instead of saying I start it from scratch, and I be a client, and I may market it, and you wouldn't make enough money to survive. No? By buying a business, I never that just will be running a makoto. By doing that, now I skipped over 18 to 20 years of starting afresh. And then I realized, hey, even though yes, me the loan and the data business now, the business no make enough money to pay back the loan and still enough to even support me and replace my payroll from the business now a juma mi best start a business now. And that is one thing that a lot of people don't know you can do. Nipa bebree nim saa de no say you don't always have to start from scratch with a business. And so I've made it a point to really educate us as a people, to educate us about the idea of buying businesses, because there are other communities, especially the Asian communities, and they know this process, they use this, they leverage this at all times. And the way correct, auto business new year, now the business name fast so 8 year long normally we are sɛ nyame hyira na wonya nyini kyɛ na wɔwɔ free ma especially mo laundry, those who do laundry and then Chinese restaurants na wɔn free ma then no makofa other people aba no mato amomo ɔmo tɔn ma ɔmo a na ɔmo nso atake over na wasa giska no nti you can pass it on to multiple generations using the same business to remake the money all the time. So the goal and then the idea today is I just want to expose that opportunity. And then I'll talk a little bit about strategies and some things how you can use to make it better. Me, because I'm an accountant, sometimes it's very easy to analyze a business. But a BBA, say only a financial person, one of the key things you need is to have a financial person on your side moving along. In addition to so this up till today, since I transferred from my 9 to 5 business to buy my own business, till date, my top 4 businesses, over the years. And they've all been so far successful. So even the art of finding a business to buy, negotiating the business purchase, trying to understand how you can take over something that is existing so that you can move it into you can move into management of it now. All of that is a process, and it's one of the things I'll be going over. And then I cannot go into details, but I would also, by the end of this presentation now, I will tell you specifically what I do to help in this process if you are interested. But you need different people, okay, if you're going to go through something like this. Okay, so with that being said, I always put together slides, but I never use it because I don't know, I just put it for your information so you can follow it. I don't use the slides. I just put it together so it can help somebody that is trying to follow along, because I like to talk about it, and there are some things that I may not go over because last week, I think when I was talking about home mortgages no, I went over this a little bit. Into I may not go over necessarily some of the topics that I went over last week, for example, credit and annual. So just keep that in mind. So to start, is this thing in your I see this thing. Let me move it away. I don't know if you guys see it. Hopefully you guys don't see it. Okay. So my goal is to go over business, looking and finding a business to buy, financing, how it works, going through the bank, different financial systems you can use. And then maybe I went over credit history and then some last week, so I wouldn't really stress on that again, but I put it in the slide because it's a part of the information you need to know. So if you want to know more about the credit stuff now, I would say go into last week's information and then you'll be able to find out more. So one of the things that I want to start with, capital. Okay, so if you, and then I'll go over businesses you can buy, but I want to start from the capital part first because the financing is always where most people come up with questions. How do I make money? How do I find money to buy a business? And the key idea is because business now, and I think I went over a little bit of the way the bank thinks when it comes to giving you loan. So okoto business the bank is not looking at your money or your income to give you money for the business. Okay. When you are going to buy a business, the bank is actually looking at the business's cash flow to give you the money. And you need to have a good credit, but the bank is not looking at sika for the business. The bank is looking at the business's cash flow to identify that the business has enough money to pay back the loan. And then the most important thing you have to be mindful of. In Uko Bank, now you begin to think about those things. You want to really have a good analysis of the business. Now, like I said, we'll go over what kind of businesses to buy, but for now, financing is the most important piece. So don't worry about the kind of business, regardless of whatever business you want to buy. You want to understand, say, how much money does the business make a year? What is the cash to the owner? Because profit, there's so many different kinds of profit. But the bank wants to know what amount of the profit is the owner, the small business owner taking home. And then here bank now. Because I know is that profit now would a movie bet your bank maker. So cash flow back to the owner is really important. In Tibu, how because my business making 1 million a year. You always want to ask that question. How much of that 1 million do you take home? How much of that 1 million do you take home? If the business makes 100,000, how much of that 100,000 do you take home as the owner, right? And then you would want to also understand, say, the business financing, it's in two parts, but because today I'm really doing this training on buying existing business. Your startup cost is the total cost of purchasing the business. Most banks require 20% down. You need to have 20% of the money down before you can buy the businesses. I can hear feedback. Really bad. Okay, good. There are different banks that have really, really good programs that you want to be able to observe. Some of them are local, some of them are national. For example, especially for us immigrants, I know that right now, Huntington National Bank, Huntington is a national bank, so they are almost across the US. But Huntington National Bank